You can't go out playing golf having fun.
Fun. Senor, you've obviously never played Wingfoot.
It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
You've got to be kidding me, Vegas. Monday night. There's my picks for this week. Now, if you want next week's picks, I can give you those by Friday.
Hold on, it works better if our mic is on. Hello, sports fans, and welcome to Week 13 of the Wingfoot Locks, brought to you by Wingfoot Sports. Greg Hoyle in his festive holiday attire. So we are ready to go. Greg, why don't you tell the fans about our outfit and our drinking pleasure this evening?
You know, a well-oiled machine here, right? We got our mics on, we got our cameras live, right? We're going with a nice Syrah, a nice red here. It's December, right before the holidays. We pull our carnigans out and we get our red wines popping and we get ready to go.
I wish I had known
a festive giving spirit.
I wish I had known. I would have worn my Christmas cardigan as well. My mother loves to get me a nice Christmas sweater around the holiday season each year. So I would have been happy to join you in that, but unfortunately I missed the memo. I should have been on board. Greg, how you feeling? Go ahead.
My folks were rocking the Christmas sweaters before the Christmas thing, and they were fantastic.
But not ugly Christmas sweaters. Those were genuine, like cashmere, fine Christmas sweaters.
Yeah, no, my mom took exception when I had to go to an ugly Christmas sweater, and I was on the phone in front of her, and I said, just grab sweaters from my parents. That'll work great.
As well she should. Mrs. Hoyle has fantastic taste in sweaters, so let her know when she hears this that I defended her honor here.
So you were about to gauge my temperature in regards to last week, correct?
Yes. In comparison to, say, a Thanksgiving turkey.
So one could describe it as a full roller coaster, a full Thanksgiving roller coaster, because we were up, we were down, we were up, we were down, we were all around, Joe, all around. Up on Monday, down after your hapless Cowboys on Thursday, back up after college on Friday and Saturday, stayed up on Sunday. But, you know, Grinches like Anthony Lynn, just ruining my day on Sunday.
Before you get there, we'll get to Anthony Lynn in a second. Before we get there, though, what's the line? Riding high in April, shot down in May? Is that the song? That's life? Frank Sinatra? Am I quoting it correctly here? I've been a puppet, a pirate, a pauper, a poet, a pawn, and a king? Boy.
You're rapping, you're being quite the poet there.
Oh, Blue Eyes, I can't take credit for that. That is Frank Sinatra, buddy. That's life. Listen, there was a bettor I saw on Bleacher Report betting. It's very funny to watch you sip your wine during this and swirl it around in your mouth as we break down football games. There was a bettor who wrote a letter to Roger Goodell this week saying that he has tried to resist the temptation to believe that the NFL is rigged, but after placing a losing bet on the Seattle Seahawks, who did not cover because he had the Seahawks minus 6.5, he said he was convinced that the NFL was rigged and that Roger Goodell should investigate the integrity of the game, and all of these things, to which we respond, take your losses like a man. Put on your big boy pants and take your losses like a man. You can be right, you can be wrong, but you roll with those punches, sir.
Serves him right for taking a near touchdown dog on the road. Come on.
Jeez.
Yeah, SpongeBob, put on your square pants and take your losses like a man.
How have we never used that before?
I don't know.
That's fantastic.
That might be a Greg original, and we might have to coin that phrase.
Trademark it, copyright it, Greg Hoyle original. Hey, Mr. SpongeBob, put on your square pants. But listen, it took a ridiculous catch by Richard Rodgers there, off a tip on a Hail Mary pass. in order to hit that. And, of course, the 2-point conversion walks right into the end zone there. Meant nothing to Seattle in that one. But we have to go back to our Christmas Grinch as we are labeling him. Go ahead. What did you want to say?
I was going to say, so if we're talking about ridiculous Hail Mary plays.
There you go.
So, by the way, like all self-respecting Eagles fans, I turned that shit off at the 2-minute warning. I was done. I'm not looking for the backdoor cover there. That team is a disgrace. They should get rid of and move on from Doug Peterson, just like the Chargers will be doing with Anthony Lynn. To put yourself in that spot, like, I don't find myself to be a casual observer. I am a avid gambler. I watch a lot, right? But I think the casual observer sees that Hail Mary pass in that Chargers game and knows that they need to go down there, clock it after they catch the Hail Mary and end up on the 2-yard line. You clock the ball, you kick the field goal because it's a 2-score game, and then you take your chances with the onside kick, or you clock it, take a shot in the end zone, and then you take your chances in the onside kick game. They ran twice.
Yes,
they ran
so
on first down, and then they ran again.
Right.
What are you doing?
So that's the thing that I was going to say, right? Forget about the clocking it. Sure, you could clock it. If you want to run one play, if you're going to clock it anyway.
A 4-second freaking fade.
No. Yeah, right, exactly. You throw the ball. You don't get up there and run it. And then he had no idea what he was going to do. Even on that last play with like 4 seconds left on the clock, he was sending the field goal unit out there to kick it. He was calling them back. Look, the end of that game was absolutely ridiculous, right? Chargers are down 10. They have the ball. It's like, first of all, on the play before, it was either 1 or 2 plays before they actually hit the Hail Mary. Let's not forget that they had the pass interference call, which it was pass interference, clearly. And I was on the Bills, so I was very happy that it was pass interference. But I've seen plays like that not get called. We saw, we've seen things, that it wouldn't have shocked me. So you get another chance, you get down there, you get that catch right near the goal line, and you decide to run the ball. I mean, take one shot at the end zone. If you're going to spike it anyway, get up there, hike it, fake spike, Dan Marino play, whatever. Take a shot at the end zone. He has no idea what to do in these late game situations. And this kills me because I watch Hard Knocks, right? Anthony Lynn, really good coordinator. Seems like an awesome guy. I would love to smoke a cigar and have a steak with Anthony Lynn. But I do not want him running my team.
Cigar with no Grinch.
Say that again?
Grinches don't smoke cigars and eat steak.
So you, of course, obviously have a little bit of extra here against Anthony Lynn because although you were on the Bills with me, correct, last week? Or were you not?
Correct.
Yeah, so we got the Bills, and you wanted the field goal. You were also on the over.
On 45 and a half.
Right.
I needed the damn field goal.
Right.
Or the touchdown. Touchdown would have been great.
I'm not going to lie, a touchdown would have spoiled my day. A touchdown would have spoiled my day because it was I got it at 4, I believe. So.
Yeah. So we had a vested interest there. All I needed was a damn field goal.
Yeah.
But it was just, it was like every time there's a little bit of time left on the guy's he just burns timeouts because he doesn't know what he's doing.
At random points in the game, yeah.
Exactly. If he knew what he was doing and he wasn't burning timeouts because he was confused, and then you have a couple of those in your back pocket.
No, it definitely feels like the game was moving too fast for him. So with that, why don't we start with our first game of the week, Greg?
Right, yeah. We're picking strictly on coaches against the Grinch, right? I got the real life human Grinch and Bill Belichick versus the caricature of a head coach that I'm just jesting about being a Grinch in Anthony Lynn.
It is very funny because his persona of Bill Belichick is obviously that of Grinch, but from everything I hear, the guy's like a stand-up comedian and is fantastic to deal with if you're not the media, right? If you're not outward facing. So
right.
It seems fantastic that this week these two guys are going up against each other. Their teams are going up against each other. The Chargers at home for this one. Right now, the line's all over the place. It's between Pick'em and -2, Chargers -2. The consensus line that we're going with right now is Chargers -1.5. So I'll let you go first on this one, Greg, because you can vent some of that Anthony Lynn frustration in explaining your pick this week and why you like the Patriots.
It's a coach that finds a way to win, right, versus a coach that finds a way to lose. I think the biggest point of hesitation here, if there is any, is like, why in the world would the Chargers be favored? A team that just can't win, and when they are winning, they lose. Like, why in the world would they be laying 1.5 points? On a typical situation, that might give me a little bit of pause, but not when you have Belichick. I mean, they just eke one out against the Cardinals, and
right.
It was just another good example of playing fundamentally sound football, right? Getting a little flag there on the Cam scamper at the end of the game, getting your extra 15 yards, and then getting lucky that the Cardinals can't kick a field goal, right? So deserving, undeserving, who cares, right? We don't care when we're gambling whether or not we deserve to win.
That's right.
You just get the win. And the big thing here is at the plus 1.5, I'm going to load up every way that I can, plus 8.5 on a 7-point tease. It's going to be the front end of the tease, but you get through to the 8.5. Like, I didn't even think you need it. I think they win on the field. So we're going to sprinkle that into a bunch, and I'm literally going to have to curb myself to make sure I don't put it into too many things because it can devastate and railroad you if indeed it loses. But I'm going to have it at least 4 or 5 different ways.
Listen, this is still a football game, right? And as we saw in the Giants game last week, people get injured, so you can't figure out what's going to happen actually in the game. Well, you never know. It's unpredictable sometimes. But going into it, yeah, you feel really good about that. So that you mentioned one thing, though, is that Bill Belichick finds a way to win. One of the things that I loved coming out of Patriots camp this week in the press conference was the fact that the Cam Newton, when asked about his performance and how poorly he played, I think he had like 8 completions, 2 interceptions, and under 100 yards. He said, "I'm not going to apologize for winning." And I absolutely love that, right? That's what it is all about. He is seeing the Patriots way, and he is there to just win games. Patriots still in the playoff hunt. When you look at that AFC picture, it's a little murky, right? Baltimore's coming back to the pack. They're just 6-5, and let's not forget the Patriots hold the tiebreaker over them. So I'm not selling the Patriots on the playoffs just yet. They do have a tough schedule. This is not one of their tougher games. And if Bill Belichick can figure out a way to contain Kyler Murray, you don't think that he can figure out a way to contain Justin Herbert? I mean, the guy's record against rookie quarterbacks is phenomenal, and I think that there's a reason for that. So for that reason, I cannot in good conscience see someone taking an Anthony Lynn-led team that hasn't even proven they can win, so they can't overcome him against a Bill Belichick team that simply finds a way to overcome. And when you're getting points, you're an underdog. I mean, I got to take the Patriots with this one.
Isn't this a great example of like perception versus reality, right? The perception is Cam can't quarterback, he can't move the team down the field, and the stats back that up, right? Like, I'm not saying he's a world beater. You can't say that, right? But they do win, right? Versus everyone's hands across America about Justin Herbert. And I'm not saying he's played poorly, but what hasn't he done is the rookie of the year can't overcome bad coaching, right? So, like, everyone's saying, like, hey, I got the rookie of the year quarterback against Cam, who's not playing well, right? When in reality, you have the best coach against the worst coach, and you have, a serviceable quarterback against the rookie of the year, right? Like, Justin Herbert is still not like a top 15 quarterback. He's just the best rookie.
Right. And the Patriots are...
Or he's in the middle of the pack.
But look, the Patriots are not sexy, right, in the style of football that they play. San Diego plays such a sexy style of football. They have, at the skill positions, I mean, Keenan Allen is a stud. Mike Williams is a stud. Justin Herbert looks great. Hunter Henry is an underrated tight end, I think, in my opinion. You got Austin Eckler back. So they have a lot of talent, and even on the defensive side of the ball, right? The Joey Bosa, he's one off. He's not playing, but what's his name? Derwin James, I think, is the safety's name over there. They have a lot of sexy names and players. They haven't been able to put it all together yet, and I think the big reason for that is coaching. I can't wait till the week after Anthony Lynn is gone to jump all over the Chargers if it happens midseason. With that, I think it's a perfect segue into our next game.
Well done.
This week, the Detroit Lions are visiting the Chicago Bears. The Lions are getting 3 points in this one, and from Bill Belichick to one of his disciples, Matt Patricia, jettisoned after that horrible loss to the Texans on Thanksgiving. God, that was embarrassing. I love the Lions this week. Okay, I will go here. First of all, Matthew Stafford, I believe, is still listed as questionable in this one. I think he's going to be a game-time decision, so just know that going in. I like the Lions, even if Stafford isn't quarterbacking. So I'm going to throw that out there. First of all, this team has proved that they can go out there and get leads, right? We've seen the Detroit Lions blow lead after lead after lead. I think you get those leads by talent. You keep those leads by coaching and making in-game adjustments. Everything that I've seen seems like they are on board, and of course now his name is escaping me here, the interim coach for the Lions right now. It's not Bellamy. All I can think of is Bellamy. You got it?
I don't know who it is.
I can't think of his name right now.
I'll get it. I'll get it.
Okay. He's got a reputation for running the ball. I like that DeAndre Swift, he's all about run and then big shot plays, which I think feeds into the Lions personnel perfectly.
Darrell Bevel.
Thank you, Bevel. It was escaping me here. This is his shot, right? This is his shot to be a head coach, and I think he has a lot of the support of the locker room. I think it's hard not to when you're leaving off of Matt Patricia, who just seemed like he was in an Anthony Lynn-esque situation there where he just wasn't managing games correctly. And then you look at the fact that they're playing a Chicago Bears team who is coming off an embarrassing performance on Monday Night Football, who that defense competes week in and week out, and at some point something's got to give. I think their backs just broke. Well, part of it. That and Akeem Hicks was out. Akeem Hicks, what's his status for this one, Greg? Because I think we saw what a big difference he makes in the middle of that defense when Green Bay was able to run the ball at will against the Bears front on Monday Night Football. So, really impressive.
Questionable.
Okay, so if he doesn't play, I love it even more, right? I think this game is going to be a blowout going the Lions' way. Look, I think this game will be close. I think the Lions will win it, and I think that it will be higher scoring than most people expect because I think that the Bears' offense, although it's led by Mitch Trubisky, they couldn't have played much worse than they did against the Packers, right? I think he had 2 interceptions, 3 fumbles in that game. So I think they're going to put up some points. I know Allen Robinson is a little bit banged up. I think he's expected to play in this one, although I'm not sure how good he's going to play or if he's going to be at 100%. All of those factors. We have seen teams succeed in their first game off of a coaching change this season, right? We already saw it with the Texans when they let Bill O'Brien go. We saw it with the Falcons when they let Dan Quinn go. You get a little bit of a boost, a little bit of excitement, and I think that's what happens for Detroit this week. And then, of course, the biggest thing, extra time to prepare, right? These two teams, I think, are even at best, and I think Detroit's a little bit better, especially if Stafford's quarterbacking for them. So for all those reasons, I say take the 3 points and run with the Detroit Lions this week.
Yeah, and I think a part of, you say a boost and some excitement, a part of it is like, hey, this is the new boss, right? So you want to look good with the new boss as well, right? So they're in case the interim becomes the head coach next year, right? You show up well at the end of this year,
right?
Well, you got yourself a good spot next year if he becomes the guy, or if he goes somewhere else, maybe he scoops you up. So, I don't have. It's a stinky game, right? Because you got what in the world's going on with the Chicago situation over there. But on the situation with Detroit, right, it's certainly Detroit or nothing in that situation. And I think Chicago has come very much down to earth,
right.
And they looked pretty pathetic the last time they were on the field. Granted, they lost to an actual good team, whereas the Lions lost to a pretty terrible team. But
so one thing that I want to point out is you had a great, and I really want to pick your brain on this, you had a great observation a couple weeks ago where the Pittsburgh Steelers, right, you were talking about their coach during the week, Mike Tomlin, saying the Jacksonville Jaguars are an NFL team, you have to pay attention to them. And despite the final score of that game, right, it was the Steelers were not playing their best football. that final score was not indicative of how close that game actually was. So what do you think about Matt Nagy calling out his team and saying that we need to have some pride after that loss to the Detroit Lions? To the Green Bay Packers.
That seemed a little finger pointy to me, right? Like, I don't know, man. Like they've got. I think they overperformed at the beginning of the year. Now they're pretty much so performing the way that they should. I don't like or dislike what he did, right? Like from that side of things, I like what Tomlin did, and because he's not calling out the team in public, right? I prefer that stuff that goes on behind closed doors, right? So Tomlin's, to me, there was some tact, right? Like, hey, we're practicing hard. We're not going to take them lightly. Here he was saying, like, hey, this isn't my fault. This is the guy's fault. Guys, you got to play better. Like, all right, man. Well, you lead the guys. So, attitude reflect leadership. Right?
Yeah. And let's not forget Mitchell Trubisky playing for his contract. Didn't seem like it was he's going to be having a line out his door for suitors for him next year based on that first performance.
Playing like the contract he deserves.
Yes, exactly. And maybe the place where he should have been selected. Let's not forget Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, both selected after Mitch Trubisky, the two highest rated passers in NFL history now, that they have enough attempts to qualify, passing Aaron Rodgers this week. That is mind-blowing to me. Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, let's talk about those Green Bay Packers. They played probably their best game of the year on both sides of the football against those Chicago Bears on Sunday night. This week, Greg, you have an interesting first half play on them. Tell me why you like the Packers this week and why.
Yeah, so we keep our ears open all week, right? I'm listening to multiple podcasts, picking up nuggets here and there, and this actually popped up from some sort of analyst on the local Philly talk show that was breaking down some more fantasy stuff, but they were actually talking about how the Packers are a top 5 first 3-quarter team, meaning they've tended to get out in front, and then because they've been out in front, they're actually a little bit worse in the fourth quarter than an average team, right? Because they're letting up leads and people are getting back in the game because the back door is open and they don't really care. And you flip that on its head, and the Eagles have been a terrible first 3-quarter team. Like, honestly, probably 3 times this year. And I'm the biggest Carson Wentz supporter, but when you roll into halftime with 0 points, I've said out loud and in text message chains, like, well, Jalen Hurts could do worse because we have 0 points.
Right.
So now I don't want Jalen Hurts starting, but basically you have a top 5 team in the first 3 quarters and then a bottom 5 team in the last 3 quarters. And as evidence of that, the back door against Seattle, the back door against the Ravens, the back door against the Steelers, right? So instead of having to struggle and sit there and hope that the Eagles will hit the back door, I like the first half -6 for the Packers because really they're going to have a suffocating secondary. And I would typically say that you can run against them. But for some reason, Doug Peterson's not running the ball. He refuses to run the ball and change the launch point by moving the pocket for Carson Wentz. So since he refuses to adapt, I don't want to bet the Green Bay Packers for the game because the Eagles have shown that they can hit the back door. So I'll just lay the 6 in the first half, take them in the first half, and assume that they're going to get out in front there because they likely will.
Now, the line, though, it seems to indicate that the Packers are that first half team and that the Eagles haven't played well because the line for the game is either 8.5 or 9 most places that I'm seeing it right now. So any concern at all just about the value in terms of your laying 6 in the first half?
Yeah, so it indicates that based off of the data, right? Having that heavier line kind of tells me like that's probably the right play, right? So I don't love the fact that I'm seeing it at 9.5, so it's not quite as bad the way that I'm seeing it versus the way that you're seeing it. but it's basically predicting, an area of strength for Green Bay and an area of weakness for the Eagles.
Yeah. And of course, as we saw on Monday Night Football, the back door, as you mentioned, always open, but not at the end of the first half.
Yep.
And you got to love Aaron Rodgers if you do get the ball even in that 2-minute drill, right, to go down the field. I think the Packers are one of, if not the highest scoring offense inside 2 minutes, final of the half and the game this season. So always helpful to have him on your side. Just curious now, your gauge on the Eagles making the playoffs, winning the NFC East, where is that right now?
Don't care. I'm aggressively disinterested.
Wow, aggressively not aggressively, because you're going to be very interested this weekend, at least for the first half of the game.
I would prefer that they make the playoffs. That's my stance, and I think anyone who's a fan that says, like, oh, I don't even want to make the playoffs, like, they're just such a disappointing watch. And it's like the Anthony Lynn stuff, right, where it's like, hey, your offensive line is struggling and your quarterback is getting sacked, so maybe you should run the ball a little bit more. And then they go out and they run the ball like 10 times.
Yeah. And
they drop back like more than, I think it was like the second most times that the guys drop back. Like there's just no creativity. It's silly. It's really. So,
it's silliness. What's with all the silliness?
I want to see him host a playoff game, right? Because I'm still on the Wentz bandwagon, but I'm off the head coach, man. I can't deal with it.
So one of the reasons I think that sometimes Doug Peterson gets a lot of credit is because of who his coordinator was the season they won the Super Bowl. Do you remember who it was?
Boy down in Indy.
That's right, Frank Reich, the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. He's having some success this season, not so much last week against the Tennessee Titans. By the way, Greg, we put a little sprinkle on the Titans money line last week.
And I accused you. I love that you're bringing this up because I accused you of don't be cute, and then you got all. I'm not being cute.
I'll splash the pot whenever the fuck I want.
Yeah, the sprinkle paid off, man. That was if the Grinch didn't come and ruin the holiday week. That was a big basis on we were both loaded up on that. So I like it.
Well, this week though, the Colts are I think fighting for their playoff and division lives here as they go take on Houston in Houston. Texans obviously a little extra rest coming off their Thanksgiving game. We talked about them already. Right now, Indy -3. You jumped on this early, had a -2. Why did you want to jump on that number right away? What have you seen either from the Colts or Houston that tells you this is a good spot for Indy?
Yeah, it just didn't seem like enough points, right? So, like, I like betting on good teams after bad performances, right? And they got just rolled. The Colts did last week, and it was, it wasn't quite the easy narrative of the Titans where they had the punter and then it was an immediate flip of like 14 points, but it was an avalanche. I think there was an extra lineman or two that went out for the Colts and they just really couldn't get the ball off. I'm not seeing on the injury report, it looks like there's 2 guys on the line that are on the injury report, but they've got the whole week to be able to deal with that. So I just think they're a good team. They're deep on the offensive line anyway. And, from that side of things, you were telling me that division teams playing in such close proximity, the team that loses the first game does really well in the second game, right? So I didn't know that beforehand.
Right, so I'll set
to add to that narrative.
I'll set that up a little bit there. So the basically, if teams play twice in a 3-week span, the team that loses the first game has a very good record. I think it was like 70% covering the spread in the game 2 weeks later. So usually they're the underdog, right? Because they just lost 2 weeks ago. So you're getting an underdog spot, and it's a division game because they're playing each other twice in the same season. With the exception, maybe there was a 1 or 2 outliers there where it was a playoff situation that was involved. But for the most part, you're talking about division games where teams know each other pretty well, and that was the scenario that played itself out with the Titans. What I'm looking at, go ahead.
You've got two other factors, right? So since my bet was laid, which is why I would say, like, you're not going to catch two. Right now I'm seeing it 3. You could probably grab an alternate line at 2.5 and have to lay something. But Fuller, and I forget the name of the cornerback that also got was it something Roby that just
Roby
got suspended. Bradley Roby. So you got your starting cornerback and your best wide receiver that are now suspended. And seriously, Houston's not as bad as they were to start off the year. And ever since they fired their terrible coach, they've been playing a lot better. But like, they just beat a team whose fans just, put a bunch of donations towards a bunch of their charities for thanking them for beating them to get rid of their terrible head coach. Like, I thought.
Wait. What happened? I missed that storyline.
A bunch of Detroit fans were donating towards a bunch of the Houston Texans charities, thanking them for beating them so much on Thanksgiving, thus getting their coach fired.
Wow.
Hey, if you can't get on board with that, just, people donating money there and getting a good chuckle out of it, I mean, it's a win-win.
Listen, the team, they couldn't get him out the door soon enough over there, Patricia. But interesting. So obviously, yes, those two things. You were big on this early, though. The impact of Will Fuller on the Houston Texans over the last couple seasons, just in terms of when he's there and when he's not. Can you just talk about just how pivotal he has been for that team and Deshaun Watson?
Oh, so I honestly haven't pulled up that I would need to be more prepared with research. I know what you're talking about, and I didn't even think of it, but I knew when he went out, that's a pretty decent downgrade, and I think that's a reason for, like, I wouldn't move the line 1.5 for a wide receiver,
right?
But a wide receiver and a cornerback, right? I think that's, when you start to compound those things, that's pretty decent. But that it was the air yards. So that was the air yards per pass when Will Fuller has been in versus when he's out. It goes down by like 3 yards or 4 yards per pass. Right. So he just gets a lot more conservative. And if you just watch the type of receiver Will Fuller is, I mean, dude just breaks off long receptions. So,
and honestly, I think he's underrated. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. And in those years past, he
gets hurt.
Right. He can't stay healthy for the whole season. But in years past, too, he had DeAndre Hopkins still as a backup, right? No DeAndre Hopkins this year. As we established earlier this season on the podcast, he's got Brandon Cooks and a bunch of also-rans there at wide receiver. So definitely worth pointing that out.
So we're going to roll with the Colts. Catch it. You don't lay over 3, right? So if you see it going out to 3.5, find an alternate line, right? Like, we are never, ever, ever, at least this guy is never, ever, ever going to lay 3.5. It's just not going to happen, right? And any chance where I can go from 3 to 2.5 for a small amount of money, I will do that as well.
And let me point this out, too, because I don't know if you mentioned it, right? So we talk about this all the time. So styles make fights. And last week, part of the reason for loving the Tennessee Titans was the fact that both defensive tackles were out for the Indianapolis Colts against that running game of Tennessee. And we saw Derrick Henry have a monster day for them.
Yep.
DeForest Buckner and Danico Autry both back. And the Texans aren't a good running team to begin with. So, throw that in. And then, obviously, we mentioned the fact that they being the Colts, are able to get pressure with their front four so they don't have to blitz a lot. They weren't able to do that, obviously, against the Titans, and definitely played a big role in that game and the blowout. They are back. They weren't injured. They were on the COVID-19 list. I don't think either of them tested positive. I think it was the close contact situation there. So even better with that situation. And, of course, the running game has struggled all year for the Texans, and I think that's going to continue because now you don't really have to respect the deep ball with no Will Fuller there. So we are both on the Colts. Get it at 3 before it goes to 3.5 if you still have it available. Again, if you want to buy it down to 2.5, so you don't have to worry about it. But I think the Colts have bounced back. Oh, there's one other thing about the Colts. There was a spot earlier this season, right? You're getting this at a great time, right? Texans are coming off as high and as good as they've looked this season. The Colts are coming off as bad as they've looked this season. There was a spot where the Colts, I think they were coming off the bye against the Detroit Lions earlier this year. I was on them. They ended up blowing out the Lions in that one. I think it was like 2-3 touchdowns most of the game that they were up. It was just a great spot. I said then that this was a team, the Colts, that many people were predicting could make a run to the Super Bowl. That hasn't changed. They are healthy going into this one, especially when compared to last week. For that reason, I think it's a great spot for the Colts and a bad spot for the Texans. So I think we've talked enough about this one. You think we like the Colts this week?
Yeah, smidgen.
A smidgen.
And I am coming around on these early selections, man. I tell you, I can't tell you enough how I love having them at -2. And then just to mention one of my money management faux pas, which, by the way, if anyone wants to sign up here, not that I have money problems, but I was telling Joe, is that I got the tease in that the Grinch stole from me during the pod. We went live on Saturday morning, last week, but during the podcast, the line went down for the Saints. It was when all the information came in, and I had given the Saints the under 43, and then it dropped drastically to 36.5. And as I refreshed there at the end of the podcast, it was no longer available. So I'm kind of coming around here of grabbing this stuff early. And as long as it doesn't have to be super duper early, but I'm getting it a little bit earlier than I have in the past. So, as you're listening to this, right, run out right now. Make your selection, right?
Run to the store. Hurry.
Exactly.
If you order in the next 10 minutes, we'll throw in an extra half point.
Take that little trip over to Jersey if that's where you got to go to make your selections, and then scoot back home.
Listen,
no traffic.
I wanna establish this for some people who might be new listeners or who just never realized that have been listening since the beginning. So in that opening theme song that we play here on the podcast, right, that we created there, it is John Anthony, which is Matthew McConaughey's character from Two for the Money, and he is saying in there, okay, I can give you, here are my picks for this week, and if you need next week's picks, I can get you them by Friday. He's picking on a Tuesday for Sunday's game before he runs off to play golf over at Wingfoot, Winged, the famed golf course where the U.S. Open was held in New York. Wingfoot is because of how he says it in there and poking fun at that. So that's the idea of the Wingfoot locks coming in early, which is why Chris Portente always puts his early feelers out on the Instagram page for you to check out there. So Greg is coming around, obviously, and he's liking taking some of the games early. Look, there's always going to be things that develop during the week, but if you're not on them right away and you're not the first person to learn about it, the lines, the books, they are adjusting accordingly, so you might miss the best of the number. And sometimes the line moves even more in your favor than you would have even expected when you get it early. So
Gotta be coachable, Joe. If you're not coachable in this game, you end up like that SquarePants guy complaining to Roger Goodell about his 7-point road dog or road favorite.
I know.
Gotta be coachable.
Square City, baby. Population 1 million plus over there for sure. All right, so
been there.
You know what's not a square pick this season? The Jacksonville Jaguars. And they've been covering. Don't look now, but those Jacksonville Jaguars have been covering as of late, with the exception of 1 week against Pittsburgh. Sorry, I got to keep bringing that one up on you. But they have been in very close games. And this week they're getting 10 points as they head to Minnesota to take on the Vikings, who find themselves in the middle of a playoff push here, believe it or not, in the NFC after that 1-5 start. So, Greg, you are taking the points with the Jags. Why are you going to roll with them in this one?
So here's my only thing. If you're one of those, what the heck's it called? What's the name? Kirk Cousins at 1 o'clock on a Sunday truthers, right? Where you're not going to go against Kirk at a 1 o'clock start time. You're not going to be on board with this. But this isn't a bet on the Jags. It's a bet against the Vikings because under no way, shape, or form should the Vikings be a 10-point favorite. So I, under no circumstance, I don't understand. Usually a 10-point line, I can't get a money line, but for some reason they're showing me a money line, which is ridiculous. So I don't think the Jags
What is it,
have
plus
any
350, plus 4?
This is 384.
Yeah.
So I don't think the Jags have an interest in winning this game, but they're going to get Shark back. I have no idea, nor do I care who they're trotting out at quarterback, right? Insert
I believe
terrible quarterback here.
Hey, whoa. Mike Glennon was highly touted coming out of Rutgers. He has been one of the best. He is like a Matt Flynn guy who is, I feel like, has never played a game and yet gets ridiculous contracts, and people always have. He is the embodiment of what everybody thinks of a backup quarterback, right? Like, oh, but the backup quarterback has so much potential. Our starting quarterback is struggling. Let's go to Mike Glennon. Give him a shot. Well, last week he took that shot. And listen, they were a 2-point conversion away from twice they have had quarterbacks come in who were a 2-point conversion away from tying the game. Once against the Texans and once against last week against the Cleveland Browns. Very interesting. So Mike Glennon, I believe, will be the quarterback for them this week.
You could certainly do worse, right? Like you could have Ben whatever pizza roller
DiNucci?
guy.
Ben DiNucci?
Yeah, there you go.
By the way, for the record, hold on. Let me go back for a second here because for the record, I'm being facetious when I talk about Mike Glennon. I don't want people to think that I think Mike Glennon is actually a legitimate quarterback. I mean, look, the guy's fine. He's solid, but he's never done anything for more than a game at a time. He's had a couple good games in his career, so winning once is one thing, right? We've seen plenty of quarterbacks come in, get the start. Teams aren't prepared for him. They got to go dust off the VHS tape of Mike Glennon from the last time he started. So it's tough to find game film on him. And also it's very pixelated because they weren't in HD then. I think it was SD when they were formatting. So it's hard to see what they were actually doing and pick up those clues. But anyway, yes, I agree. Whatever insert name of quarterback that you're trotting out this week.
Yes. So we're going to take our 10 points. We're going to go against the Vikings, right? So like they were a spunky team about a month ago when Dalvin Cook was running out there. I had to get educated by my friends that apparently there's this whole thing about Dalvin Cook that every time he fumbles, he fakes an injury. And I think that's pretty hilarious from that side of things.
What is it? Every time he fakes it?
Every time Dalvin Cook fumbles, he's magically injured, and then you see him warming up on the sidelines. Apparently,
I'm not gonna lie. I may have used that once when I was in like Pop Warner football, and I was carrying a couple guys on my back, and I distinctly, my coach immediately called me out for it because I fumbled. After I was carrying a couple guys, the next guy came over, and he taught me the lesson then. Sometimes you got to go down, and he said, "You're not injured. Get your ass back out there." That was a lesson I learned in Pop Warner football. So.
Yeah, no hero ball there. So that was on, I believe, the second Jeremy Chin fumble return for a touchdown.
Insane.
But there should be no way that they're favored by 10 points to anyone. They had a couple of nice wins. They got those off. They're certainly going to be in a playoff race here. But their defense is just not good. So if their defense is not good, in big spots, Kirk Cousins is going to show up small. So I'll grab my 10 points. I will take the Jags. And hey, by all means, if they get out to a lead, I don't think the Jags want to win, right? So that's why I would never go near the money line. But the back door is always open with the Jags. We've watched them slip through the back door. I can think of two right off the top of my head within the past like 4 or 5 weeks. Right. So even though they don't have good quarterbacks, they have some pretty good skilled position players that can move that ball up and down.
Okay, so you just mentioned, though, the one reason that I'm not on the Jags with you, right? And
because they don't want to win.
No, well, that's part of it. But you mentioned the defense of the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know what to make about this Minnesota Vikings defense. As you said, the Carolina Panthers scored 2 defensive touchdowns in about 4 seconds, right? Back to back. And they had, let's not forget, BB fumbled the punt that was kicked to him. They held him to a field goal, which proved to be huge, set up the game-winning touchdown for the Vikings. I also saw, look, I know they have played bad teams. We saw on Monday Night Football, the only touchdown they gave up was a kick return to Cordero Patterson against the Bears. Obviously, the Bears' offense is trash, and we know that. There was one other game in there. I can't remember the last game. It's escaping me right now. But it was, a pretty solid defensive performance by them. Well, was that the one where they beat the Lions handily? I believe it was, Greg.
Yes.
Is the one I'm thinking of.
Yes.
So those are the types of games
they lost. They got beat by the Cowboys.
The Cowboys is the one
up 31 points.
Right, and that was coming off the win against the Bears on Monday Night Football on short rest. I mean, it was a competitive game in there. They still, obviously, there's no excuse for losing to the Cowboys at this point in the season or at all this year.
They lost to insert NFC East team here, and it's not excusable.
Right, but the fact that they gave up those 2 touchdowns in like 10 seconds and were able to stop them after the muffed punt, I think that the stats are a little bit skewed when you look at them. And then throw in the fact that they're playing the Jaguars, who aren't exactly an offensive juggernaut in this one. I wouldn't be surprised if that turnover battle swings a little bit in their favor, and then all of a sudden this one could go the other way. So that's the reason I'm not on the Jaguars with you, but I do believe that this game is either Jaguars or pass, even if you are a Kirk Cousins truther, because Glennon did look decent against the Browns last week, and he was without his top 2 wide receivers, and as you mentioned, they're getting them back. All right. That's longer than I think anybody wanted to hear us talk about the Jaguars. Go ahead. You want to say one more word?
I was going to say, if you don't want to hold your nose and jump in with the Jaguars with me, I totally understand, and I'm not going to try. I can't sit there and try and convince you otherwise.
Fair enough. Speaking of bad teams, this week the New York Jets are playing host to the Las Vegas Raiders. Jets laying 8.5, 9. What's it up to? Somewhere between 8 and 9. But you like a play on the total. The total on this one.
46.5. And the last time that I had a feel on the Jets total, we were very right. And we're going to tease that down. It's got to be a 7-pointer. So we need a 7-pointer because we got to run New England through 8. It'll be 8.5. And then we're going to run the Jets down to over 39.5. So I just think the Jets looked terrible on offense last week, but I do think if there is a situation where they can take advantage of a defense, the Raiders looked disheveled last week. They just had to travel all the way back to Vegas, and now they're coming back over to the East Coast, right? I think you can get to the Raiders against their defense. It's an oft-injured defense over there, especially in the secondary. You have Arnett. Arnett was the guy that I was trying to think of before. So if that dude's not hurt going into the game, he'll be hurt by like the second quarter. He's like J.J. Watt Jr. So from that side of things, I think you get to the Raiders on their defense. That offense has got something to prove for the Raiders. And what's better when you got to prove something than going against that Jets pass D? So we were talking about Jacobs being out. You can get to the Jets better in the air than you can on the ground. So you get 2 teams that are going to be putting the ball in the air a little bit. I don't like that situation for the Raiders going back and forth, east to west, right? So if I think that that's going to affect them in some way, shape, or form, if it affects the offense, it'll affect the defense as well, right? So I've always got the motto, it takes 2 teams to hit an over, right? So we need both teams to be scoring. And if we get in there with, like a 24-17 type of game, not super high scoring, it does what we need it to do.
So the fact that you say you need 2 teams to hit the over is the part that concerns me on this one here. The Jets' offense has been absolutely horrible. I think they average like maybe 12 points a game this season. The other thing is
that Darnold's first game back?
It was
his week.
It was his first game back after a couple starts for Joe Flacco. But Joe Flacco looked good. But Joe
Little rust
Flacco,
off.
but Joe Flacco looked good. That's the problem, right? Like it seemed like he had a little bit of a rapport with those wide receivers against the
Point
Patriots.
Darnold will get the rapport back.
But he never had it. That's the thing is I've never seen the rapport from Sam Darnold and these wide receivers. Everything is a check down to Jamison Crowder. I feel like when Darnold is QBing there, Crowder has somewhere between 10 and 15 catches for like 87 yards. And I'm yet to see him be able to push the ball down the field to Berrios and the rookie Mims, because Mims was hurt for the first part of the season, so they haven't gotten a chance to play together yet. But I agree with you. Look, I don't think that the Raiders' defense is very good, but I can't be on this because I just think that the Jets are that bad. And coming off that loss to the Falcons in the way that they did, they lost by 35 points. They put up 3 points. Was it on the road? I mean, it was abysmal.
40-6, and they lost by 34.
Right, to the Falcons. And look, I mean, it's a 1 o'clock game. I get that. You're coming off. They were coming off the loss to the Chiefs, right, in that one on Monday Night Football. So I get it's a letdown spot. But the Raiders were in the mix for the playoffs. Look, I think the Raiders are going to win this game running away, and I would feel more comfortable going with them than I would be the Jets in this one. Can I see the Jets scoring? Yes. Can I see the Raiders letting up? Yes, but I don't think that it is a given the fact that they probably got a lashing this week. And so until I see the Jets put up some points with Sam Darnold, the quarterback, I just don't know. I can't believe that they will. And the other thing was, in the Jets game against Miami, you'll notice they went for it. They're in this, like, I have nothing to lose mentality at this point. And they went for it a couple. It's good it's good sometimes. Here's the example that I'm about to give. Is on fourth down, they went for it 2 or 3 times and didn't get it. And they were in field goal range of those times. And so they come away, instead of 9 points, they come away with 0 points. And then I think maybe it was twice. And then before halftime, they decide to kick the field goal. And their kicker, who is kicked everywhere from the AAF to the whatever, United Football League, he misses like a chip shot 20-yard field goal, which is closer than an extra point is this season as they're going into halftime, which would have made it a 7-point game, I think. So, say that again?
Ficken?
No, it's not Ficken anymore. They've been through, I can't even, Costas? Look up. We do too much talking about punters and kickers on this podcast this season.
Okay. If it's not the first guess, I'm off of it.
Yeah, it is not.
Right,
it is not hard hitting Sam Ficken.
We've never needed your approval for the tease, Joe.
Of course not.
We gotta get the good vibes flowing here and get a win coming in. We can't let any Grinches affect our tease this week.
Listen, I'm not going to be a Grinch. I'm just telling you why I am not on the over for the Jets. That is all. I feel that I should explain myself as to why I'm not jumping on board, and that's it. I'm not going against it.
Do you think that Darius Slay might be questionable for this week because he doesn't want to get beat like he stole something against Devontae Adams like he did against DK Metcalf?
I will tell you,
Good
though,
Lord. There
were some catches that were out of this world. That one that I've seen a million times of him on the sideline was an incredible catch by Metcalf.
He's a freak.
He's a beast. He's an absolute beast, and I think
He's no J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, but he's pretty good.
Was he drafted before? Was J.J. Arcega-Whiteside drafted before DK Metcalf? Listen, there were a lot of wide receivers drafted before DK Metcalf.
Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson.
I know.
These are egregious moves. These are like picking Mitchell Trubisky over Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson.
Although, did you hear?
This is why. This is why I'm disinterested, right? So if we're not shaking things up I've turned this into an anti-Eagles podcast. I apologize.
Although I do have to say, did you hear the quote from Tyreek Hill about Patrick Mahomes earlier this week?
What was it?
Tyreek Hill said that when Patrick Mahomes came in,
he's filthy nasty.
No, when he came in, he thought Patrick Mahomes was garbage. He said off the bat he did not think that Patrick Mahomes was going to be good. And then they were tweeting back and forth at each other with Mahomes used an image like with that guy who's like, what? With the question marks around him. Oh, it was fantastic. It was fantastic. I love it. I guess he was wrong on that one, and probably very happy to be wrong after his 270-yard day with 3 touchdowns last week. 200 yards in the first half. Anyway, with that being said, let's recap for the fans listening out there. This week, I am going with Detroit +3. Greg and I are both on the Patriots and the Colts. Greg likes Green Bay -6 for the first half. Jacksonville +10 as they head to Minnesota. And then the tease for the week is New England +8.5 and the over 39.5 in the Jets and the Las Vegas Raiders. Greg, before we depart this evening, what? Oh, I got a finger.
I have one last departing gift, which will be the St. Louis Rams -2.5. No handicap, just take it. We're giving out winners.
I love it. I think that's the first time since we've been doing the podcast that I missed a pick. Shame on me.
It's all right. We just sprinkled it in like a little money line pick at the end.
On your way out the door. With that being said, for Greg Coyle, I'm Joe Messeri. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Wingfoot Locks, brought to you by Wingfoot Sports. As always, check out the Instagram page for Chris Portente's Wingfoot Lock of the Week. And remember, everyone, it's not whether you win or lose, it's whether or not you cover the spread. Have a great weekend and enjoy the games.